Hey, this is Doc Erik. Welcome to my YouTube channel, the channel where you get one mindset tip and one body set tip rolled into one nice video package here for you to take not only with you today, but also later in life as well. Today we're going to be talking about kind of the hip flexor complex and how that's impacting us. So let's go ahead and jump in. When we're dealing with people that have lower back pain, inevitably we end up getting to talking about the hip flexors and the psoas, the iliopsoas, the ilacus, all the muscle tissues that are involved in that particular complex. So this particular muscle group is always implicated in postural issues, and it's usually a case of stiffness or hypertonicity of the muscle tissues, meaning the muscle tissues that are too tight they're guarding. So what we're looking at is we're truly looking at getting some more hip extension mobility. So when people say, oh, I have tight hip flexors, I need to stretch them more, typically what we see is people doing stretches where that particular area gets stretched, but it's improperly done. So typically what they're going to do is they're going to kind of start to stretch the anterior capsule of the hip, or what they're going to start to do is hyperextend the lower back, and what they truly think is the hip flexor stretch, they're actually putting damage on other tissues such as the anterior capsule of the hip, or also they're starting to get a little bit of facet compression into the lower back, the lumbar area, as opposed to truly addressing that psoas itself. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to put a direct link below that's going to take you to what I believe to be one of the best ways to stretch the hip flexor. It's a very highly detailed video and you guys are going to like it a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in for you. One of the other things we want to address when we're talking about the actual hip capsule itself, in terms of people saying, oh, I have tight hip flexors, I have tight hip flexors, is we want to know why exactly is it tight? Why do we perceive that it's tight? We want to know what's going on the other side of the joint, for example. What are the glutes doing? What is the lower back doing? Do we find that those tissues are underactive, or are they not firing at all? And how about that lower back? Are you sitting in a posture that's slouching? And how about the hamstrings? What are they doing? What's the influence between the tissues of the lower back, the glutes, and the hamstrings, and how they influence tightness into the hip flexors and the psoas group? One of the ways that we do that is we do that through activating these tissues. So you hear a lot of people talking about activating the posterior chain. And the posterior chain is basically a postural sling of muscle tissues that help to support extension of the body, right? So if I'm sitting up or if I'm standing up nice and tall and I'm recruiting my hamstrings, I'm recruiting my glute muscles and my lower back muscles, my hip flexors have less of a job to do because my supportive tissues behind me are doing the job. Often we find that when a muscle tissue contracts and becomes tight, it's usually in response to another tissue letting go. So do we truly need to stretch our hip flexors over and over and over again, or would we be better served to strengthen the muscle tissues of the lower back, the hamstring, and the glutes? And I believe the answer truly is a combination of all the above, but you can never go wrong with strengthening the tissues. Stretching muscle is nice, but when you stretch a muscle, you're not providing any strength. You're not integrating that with another movement pattern. So always choose strength over flexibility when it comes to your postural pain, because you're going to get a lot more mileage, a lot more bang for your buck, and you're going to find yourself a lot less stiff and a lot less sore. So the mindset tip and the body set tip today is, if you're somebody who is suffering from what you perceive to be tight hip flexors, always reach out and make sure that's truly the case, right? There's ranges of motion that we can assess for, we can check. There's diagnostic tests that we can check to see if your hip flexors truly are tight. But we also want to turn you over and we want to check out the lower back, we want to check out the hamstrings, we want to check out the glutes to make sure that they're doing their appropriate job. If they're not, then that's when we want to start to address these tissues so that we can make you both strong and flexible at the same time. So that's the mindset and the body set tip all rolled into one. So don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We love it when we get new YouTube visitors to this channel. Questions just like this come from you guys at home and people that I interact with in my office. So that's where all this content gets generated. These videos help me provide content for future patients, as well as people who are currently suffering with anything that we talk about in these videos. So if you're someone who's got a lower back concern and you think it's coming from tight hip flexors, it could be, but let's talk about it first. And also stay healthy. Okay.